cover-up was not a total success. When the official Christian story was being written, the Bible writers could not remove one key passage. In John's Gospel, Mary is described as weeping outside the tomb, having discovered that Jesus' body has disappeared. She goes in for one final look and is startled by a familiar voice. She turned around and saw it was Jesus and said to him in Aramaic, "Rabboni." He replied, "Do not touch me." He then told her to go and tell the other disciples about the resurrection. It's an incredibly powerful moment and arguably the most important in the Christian story. Without the resurrection, Jesus couldn't be the Son of God, and without that, there'd be no Christianity. And if you decode the language, an even more interesting story emerges. Rabboni, the name she called Jesus, is very curious. It's a term that normally means teacher. But here, it sounds like a term of endearment, a mark of a special relationship. And Jesus replies to her with, "Do not touch me," implying that this is what they would normally do when they met. They would touch. It all points to a very personal, close, and special relationship between Mary Magdalene and Jesus. Why else would he appear to her, a woman, first? In the Church of the Holy Sepulchre itself, beneath the rock on which Jesus was supposed to have been crucified, I was told there was more hidden evidence of Mary's true status.
This is very special. This is the hand of Mary Magdalene.
That is the hand of Mary Magdalene. My goodness.
This is the hand of Mary Magdalene that tried touching Jesus and touched it.
Is it brought out at any time?
Never. This is never, they take it out.
So it doesn't come out of this room?
No, no.
Are you sure it's her hand?
This is a hand. Yes, it's written there.
Greek? The hand of Mary Magdalene.
French, Russian, and in Greek. 3 languages written there.
Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene.
Wow.
Right hand. Right hand.
It's the right hand. At the entrance to the church, there is a massive mosaic mural that, when decoded, summarizes Mary's story and how the church still feels about her. At the crucifixion, dressed in green, she is prominently depicted, and at the laying out of his body too. But by the time of his burial, she has simply become a face in the crowd, relegated to the back of the Christian story. One of the Roman Catholic and Orthodox Church's biggest annual feast days is that of the birth of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Festivals are held all over the Christian world. Her icons are paraded. But one thing is never mentioned: her real blood family.
The whole question about the identity of Jesus' brothers and sisters in the Gospels is very much tied and linked to the identity of Jesus and his mother. And as Jesus becomes ever more seen as divine and Mary becomes ever more the perpetual virgin, then it becomes heretical to say that these are our ordinary brothers and sisters.
We've already heard how I believe the real founder of Christianity, a woman, Mary Magdalene, was forced out of her rightful place by a male conspiracy. But the story of Jesus' mother, Mary, was also manipulated to fit the new church's theology. Any suggestion that she had more children apart from Jesus was condemned as heresy. The Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem is built over the site of Jesus' supposed birthplace. It's dedicated to the worship of his family, as the church sees it. This is one of the earliest pictures of the Holy Family that the church has, but it's a very traditional image. You have Jesus in the middle, and then on one side Mary, and on the other side Joseph. But there's only 3 of them. So where are the other members of Jesus' family? The Bible clearly states that Jesus had 4 brothers and sisters too. It even names some of them.
Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James, and Joseph, and Judas, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?
These biblical references are a major problem for the church, and over the centuries, theologians have had to concoct some extraordinary theories to deny Jesus' blood relatives.
All of these explanations about Jesus' brothers and sisters are all attempts to explain them away. The problem comes when you see Mary as a perpetual virgin. She clearly can't have any more children, and so the references to Jesus' brothers and sisters clearly can't be that. And so people have come up with all sorts of ways of explaining them, but the plain text of the Gospel really does just say that they're simply brothers and sisters of Jesus.
This star indicates the birthplace. It is written upon the star by Latin words, Christ was born from the Virgin Mary. You can see the letters?
Yeah. So, in your tradition, the Holy Family consists of Jesus and his parents, Mary and Joseph. What about when the Bible tells us about Jesus having brothers? Do you acknowledge that Jesus had brothers and sisters?
You know, Saint Joseph was married before Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary, she get pregnant from the Holy Spirit.
So Joseph had children before he married Mary,
Yes.
and therefore when the New Testament talks about Jesus having brothers, they're really half-brothers.
Yes.
They're not his full brothers.
Yes, of course.
But they are his brothers
Yes.
through Joseph.
Yes.
This theory, that Jesus' family were only half-brothers and sisters, the sons and daughters of Joseph from a previous marriage, is mostly based on a 2nd century non-biblical Christian text called the Gospel of James. It portrays Joseph as an aging widower, chosen by the chief priest of the temple to look after the 14-year-old Virgin Mary. There's a suggestion that after the birth of Jesus, Mary had children. Do you believe Mary had children?
No, never. No,
It's impossible.
no. Virgin Mary, it was virgin during the birth, before the birth, and after the birth.
So she stayed a perpetual virgin.
Of course.
The Gospel of James goes to incredible lengths to prove Mary's perpetual virginity.
Salome said, "As the Lord my God lives, unless I thrust in my finger and investigate her parts, I will not believe that a virgin has given birth." Then Salome went in, and the midwife said, "Mary, show yourself, for a small test concerning you is about to take place." And Salome inserted her finger into her body and cried out, "Woe is me for my unbelief."
Amazingly, in the 5th century, the Gospel of James was condemned as heresy.
Saint Joseph, he didn't sleep with her, never, never, never.
So the Christian traditions who believe that they did have children, you would say that they're wrong.
Yes, of course.
Will God judge them for that?
Maybe. Watch your hands.
It's not just the Greek Orthodox Church that has a problem with Jesus' blood family. Whilst I was in Bethlehem, I bumped into some members of the Ethiopian Church, including their Archbishop, Abba Melchizedek. A pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. I was wondering if you could tell me how, in your tradition, you understand the parts of the New Testament where Jesus is said to have brothers. So
We don't believe that.
you don't believe that he had any brothers?
No.
No.
Jesus himself said to his disciples, "My brothers," like that is all.
That's it.
So
So
all the followers of Jesus Christ are his brothers. No, we believe Jesus is the Son of God.
thank you. God bless you. God bless you. 1600 years ago, the first heresy the early church